This past February, a Norfolk Southern train carrying hazardous chemicals derailed in the small Ohio village of East Palestine. Soon after the derailment, officials burned the toxic freight to avoid a possible explosion, sending a black cloud of smoke drifting ominously into the air. As residents returned to their homes days after the crash, many complained of rashes, sore throats, nausea, and headaches. It's now been over 7 months. The cleanup of the derailment site is ongoing, and some residents tell us they're still concerned about the lingering effects on their health, the economic future of their community, and whether something like this could happen again. Joining us now to talk about those concerns is the CEO of Norfolk Southern, Alan Shaw. Thanks for coming in. It's good to see you again.
Jeff, it's a pleasure to be with you. You know, last time you and I were together was about 7 months ago on the ground in East Palestine in the immediate aftermath. And at that point, I made the commitment that we were going to make it right. And we're keeping our promises. And I'm really proud of the progress we've made. I also understand there's a lot more work to be done.
Well, on that point, 7 months on, there are residents who say they are still suffering damaging symptoms. They want more testing. They want clearer assurances about the safety of their homes. They want their health care costs to be covered now and in the event that they develop cancer or some other serious health problem. What can you offer in the way of definitive guarantees?
Yeah, as you know, I go back multiple times a month, and when I'm there to oversee our progress in the environmental remediation and our investment in the community to help it thrive. But I'm also there to listen. I'm there to sit down with the citizens and hear their concerns and hear what Norfolk Southern can do to help. And, you know, the three things that we really hear about are concerns about water testing, concerns about property valuation, and long-term health care. And so just yesterday, we were able to make an announcement of a $4.3 million grant to enhance the city water system. And next week, I'm pretty confident we're going to make an announcement on a long-term fund for property valuation. And we're working with key stakeholders on issues associated with long-term health care. So we're listening and we're taking action.
Does Norfolk Southern have a full accounting of the chemicals that were spilled and the ones that were created during that controlled burn?
And we certainly know what was on the consist of the train. It was important to note that throughout the process, the U.S. EPA and the Ohio EPA had air testing and water testing up, and they've shown outside of the evacuation zone that the air was safe to breathe and the water safe to drink.
One of the concerns we heard the most about from folks in East Palestine is the time it's taking to do this remediation. Initially, it was thought that the cleanup could take a matter of weeks. It's now, as we've said, about 7 months. One of the main roads there has been shut down. What is taking so long, and what's the expectation for when the work will be done?
Yeah, that's another thing I hear when I go back to the community. The folks want the environmental remediation to be complete, and frankly, they want Taggart Street to be opened. I understand that completely. As I noted, we're working under the oversight of the U.S. EPA. Right now, we firmly believe that the most intense phase of the environmental remediation will be done next month. But we also understand that our commitment is not done there, and we'll continue to remediate the site, and we'll continue to test and monitor.
Let's talk about rail safety, because the NTSB, which investigated the derailment, found that there was a Norfolk Southern employee who expressed concerns about the size of the train the day before the derailment. The train itself had 2 mechanical disruptions during its journey before it eventually derailed. And of course, we now know it was caused by an overheated wheel bearing that wasn't picked up in time by the trackside sensors. What is Norfolk Southern doing to make sure that this will never happen again?
Yeah, Jeff, we've been really active. I immediately instructed my team to look for ways to enhance safety on Norfolk Southern. And in March, we announced a 6-point safety plan, which we're implementing. And I reached out to Admiral Kirk Donald, who used to run the Navy nuclear propulsion system. And I asked him to put together a team of experts with Navy nuclear experience and report directly to me as an independent consultant and help us enhance the safety culture at Norfolk Southern. And just yesterday, in full transparency, I released those findings from the Navy nuke team. And right now we're sitting down with them and mapping out a 2 to 3 year roadmap for implementation. And I'm going to mail those results to every single one of Norfolk Southern's 20,000 employees, because I want 20,000 voices at Norfolk Southern advocating for rail safety.
Ohio's 2 senators, one Democrat, one Republican, introduced the Railway Safety Act this past spring, which would do a couple of things. It would strengthen notification, it would strengthen inspection requirements. It would also mandate a 2-person onboard crew. Do you support that piece of legislation?
You know, there are many things that we support in the various railway safety bills that are in the House and in the Senate. You know, and what you've seen from me is a vocal advocate for many of these provisions, and I'm taking a lead role in the industry in trying to advance bipartisan rail safety legislation.
Which ones do you think go too far? Which provisions do you think are unnecessary?
You know, we're data driven and we look for science, and at this point, I have not seen any link between crew size and railway safety. What I can tell you, things that make a lot of sense to me are additional training for first responders. And frankly, they're the heroes in this whole situation. First responders are the ones who devote their whole careers to protecting the communities in which we live, pardon me. I'm also for enhanced tank car safety standards and more research and development for hot box detectors. There's a lot of things that make perfect sense to enhance rail safety.
You know, people will hear you say that and think it also makes common sense, perfect sense to have more crew on board. That the train, the 2 mile long, nearly 2 mile long train in East Palestine had 3 crew members, one of whom I think was a trainee. But if that train had only had 1 crew member on it, as bad as it was, it could have been even worse in that community.
You know, what we haven't seen is a link between crew size and rail safety. But I am absolutely advocating for many of the provisions that are out there. And I'm taking a leadership role in the industry on enhancing rail safety.
Final question. You know, when I talk to folks who have been following what happened in East Palestine and who pay close attention to the ongoings in the rail industry, they say that, you know, rail carriers for a long time, the industry has been self-regulated. For all this talk about government regulation, the industry itself has been self-regulated, and the big rail carriers want to keep it that way. Is that the case? Yeah,
we work very closely with our elected officials and with our regulatory agencies. And look, we understand the powerful role that rail plays as an economic growth engine in the U.S. economy. And we do a lot of things that are aligned with both sides of the aisle, including enhanced investment in manufacturing, high-paying union jobs, taking trucks off the highway, and sustainability. We understand our role, and we take safety very seriously.
Alan Shaw, CEO of Norfolk Southern. Thanks for coming in. It's good to see you.
Great to see you again. Thank you for your time.